I did it again. We got into conversation backstage, and I forgot that we had a live going on.
Yeah, yeah.
let me
Oh
let me
man.
um let me make sure that I recognize the people that are already here waiting on us. Let's see. The first one in was Jeffro. He says, "Hey Jorge, I can't believe this is already episode 84." Yeah, no joke. This thing has gone by pretty quick. I when I started out doing this, I didn't had no idea how many of these I was going to do, but they're starting to fly by. I mean, they're getting a lot easier for me as time goes on. And it's also, I guess there's enough of them out there that some of the people that have watched them understand what they're getting into for the most part. And they're a little bit more accessible to come on. So it's making it easier also to be able to get guests on because they understand what's going on. But yeah, 84. We're coming in on that 100, but I'm not even worried about that. I want to do this for years if possible. Let me see. We also have Why Are We Always Yelling? Sam, thank you for being in here. Hey, Cecil Mayberry, thank you for joining us. And then I'm sure people will start trickling in. I don't know. I didn't think anybody else was going live at this time, or actually, I didn't even check, to be honest. But hopefully, there isn't anybody. But again, like I've always said, my whole intention of this was set up because I know how my schedule is. People to watch them on replay, and for the most part, they did. Like the one I did the other night, late at night. It was what 11 o'clock for us, but it was like, what was it, 2 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, and people were still coming in. I was like, holy shit.
Oh yeah.
That one
Get
I
the other
was
side.
just really wanted to go. Yeah, I was just planning on going live, and I was, hoping people would watch the replay. And that was pretty much what ended up happening. But I was still surprised how many people actually came in to the actual live. I was like, man, there's that many people awake. I remember during but that was different though. When we were all forced to be indoors, you could come on YouTube and 24/7 there would always be somebody going live. Well, with that being said, again, thank you so much for joining us. And Jacob, thanks for accepting the invitation, man.
Yeah, no,
Um,
appreciate. Thanks for inviting me.
I know we were trying to work out on a date or time, and we finally found a time and a date that actually
Yeah.
worked out for the both of us.
Oh yeah.
Um, I guess if you kind of want to give us a little quick introduction about yourself and what you got going on, and then we'll get into it.
All right. Well, my name's Jacob. I'm basically just I'm a hobbyist. A hobbyist loves fish. I've been around fish my whole life. More, I guess it all starts with fishing. I've fished a lot in my life. That's my hook to fish.
Okay.
So when I wasn't able to fish when I was a youngster, I was hanging around fish shops. So, and a pretty young age, I think I was around 13 where I just go skateboard down to all the local shops and stuff back in the day. And then I eventually ended up pestering ones enough they allowed me to work there. So I worked there for like 4 years, and I used to work for food, couldn't never afford anything, was always broke. So, saving your lunch money to try to put enough scratch together to get a fish, and then working a deal, say, hey, can I go clean your tanks? And they eventually say, yeah, you clean all those tanks, we'll give you a bag of cichlid plus, stuff like that. And so from there, just lots of fishing and in and out of the hobby. I was in it when I was in the beginning of it. It was all cichlids back in the day. We're talking we're talking a while, 40 years ago. Was always cichlids, kind of like what you say, George. Like back in the day, I don't remember fish. It was always a bunch of cichlids, not a lot of community fish. There was I would say 80% cichlids and maybe 20% a couple nanofish. And
Yeah, well, I remember there were mostly and there were mostly South American cichlids. I don't remember seeing any African cichlids back when when I was keeping fish. I think those kind of came, in the obviously, of course, they came in between that gap between me keeping fish, because when I came back into the hobby, they were the thing. African cichlids were hot commodity. But yeah, it was mostly, I remember, like non-cichlids would be like silver dollars. Those were really big.
Oh yeah.
I do remember though that there was a time where Walmart used to carry fish of all places. And they used to have the real staple there were like the upside down African butterfly fish, which you can't really find anymore. I don't know what happened to those. They kind of went away by the wayside. That kind of stuff. Knives, elephant fish were also very prevalent, which I kind of hardly don't see anymore. And those were kind of the staples. Obviously, barbs. I remember tiger barbs being always a thing. Oscars, convicts, Jack Dempsey's. I remember Jack Dempsey's and green tears.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too. I talked about it a few times when because I remember green tears. There used to be just stunner green tears out there. I've had many green tears, and I see them. You'll see a good one every once in a while, but not like back in the day. I remember those things look like, I guess they, like anything, they just, the interest kind of went away and they stopped line breeding them. But I don't see even a decent green tear. The ones I used to see were just beautiful. Just straight blue, brilliant orange. And now they're kind of more washed out looking. But, it's the big nano world. Nobody has a space like they did back in the day where they can, like I remember, a 40, 60 gallon tank was pretty much your entry level back in the day. When I was in the hobby, it was like, you're going to get a tank, get a 40 or 60, more like a 60. So it is interesting. Like, cause I was in and out. I had big tanks. I had tanks, I think it was either, I want to say it was a 225 or a 240, but I want to say it was a 240 back in the day. It's 8 feet long. And I had Oscars. I had a couple. Being in the fish industry, you could get stuff that you're not, different snake heads and stuff like that, which are, you got to know people, the underground world of the fish world.
It's still pretty much the same thing nowadays. It's just, there's always going to be a black market in any industry. I don't care what it is. There's people out there that owns all those fish, except if you don't want to get in trouble, you just don't talk about them.
Yeah. No, I know you're not putting them on your social media, I don't think. So, but
if you're smart, you're not.
No, yeah. Well, I see. Another thing I see all the time too. Well, I guess I'll get in trouble for it, but whatever. But back in I had a lot of native fish too, because of fishing. I used to love fishing, so I still love fishing. I just don't have it's just the physical side of fishing anymore that beats me up pretty bad. But I used to love having the catching fingerling largemouth, growing them up, and then releasing them in your local ponds and all that stuff like that. I guess it's like park lakes and stuff like that. But it was fun, it was fun doing all that stuff. But the hobby, I remember back in the day before glowfish, I remember those injected fish where they would inject the tetra with
yeah.
For some reason,
there were glass tetras, I think.
Yeah,
and, they were actually injected. You know what? But those always were full of ick. And every time I'd go see them at the store, they were full of ick. And I think I bought some on one occasion, and they didn't last very long. And hey, Steven.
Yeah, like I remember when you'd have those in the store and they look great when they come in, and then if you didn't sell through them within like a few months, they all start to fade out and everything. So
would they metabolize the ink? Is that what was going on with those, or?
I don't know. I guess that whatever dye they were putting in it was like anything. It was just fading out. So just probably just the breakdown of that ink is just, they're probably just extracting it over time through their bodies naturally or something. But that's where they got really gnarly. Once people started saying, "Wait, you're doing what? You're injecting fish? I mean, you're injecting that." That's when they got out. That's why I think still to this day that the glowfish kind of get a bad rap because of all that injection where they're still, you got the whole argument of modifying and all this genetics and stuff like that nowadays. But I don't know what the right answer to that besides I think glowfish are a massive thing to the hobby. And I don't know. I've always supported them. I don't know. I know there's different groups that hate them and stuff like that, but I don't see a problem with them.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, I know it's a marketing ploy, but it's a marketing ploy that they're trying to use to try to get more people into the hobby. And who are the new people going to be? They're going to be kids.
Oh yeah,
that's who the new people are going to be, and they do that because the kids will, they just want something, interesting. I'm not gonna lie, the colors on those things is pretty cool. I mean, it's colors you're not gonna see in nature. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna see any neon colors. Well, you might, but not a lot of fish. And so at first I was kind of upset because I thought it was the redo of injecting fish with dyes. That's what initially when I saw it, I was like, oh man, they're still at it again. But then the more you look into it, the more you research, it's genetic modification is what they're doing. They're taking genes from jellyfish, I believe, and injecting them into these fish. And the whole argument was that they were supposed to be done to be released in waterways, and they were supposed to alert you as to contamination, because that's how they would supposedly eliminate or whatever, or they would lose. I don't know what the reason was behind it, but that was the initial argument. But of course, the fish market, the fish industry is always looking for the next. There's only so many species you can introduce to the hobby. You got to start tinkering with stuff, and to the point now, it started out with Daniels. They started out with the Daniels, then it became the Tetras, and now you have angelfish, you have Oscars, I believe.
I think
they're doing Bettas. Oh, they're doing Corys. I didn't know they were doing Corys.
Yeah, they got the orange that they're using the albino Cory. I think they got green and orange now. I think they're working on pink. But I mean, I don't know. I've talked about it a few times, on the other on a stream and stuff like that. And honestly, see, it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of things in the hobby that's really interesting. Like I overthink everything, but there's so many people like. We're kind of a small, tiny little sliver of the whole hobby, and there's the most of the hobby out there is not like us. They have one tank, and and they're just they don't know much about anything. They got a glowfish, they got a goldfish, they're just picking things. But just saying that, I spend a lot of time at Petco on my lunch break because I'm just killing a lunch. It's right next door, and I'm bored. So I just look at there, and without a doubt, that I always see everybody gravitates to that glowfish tank, that the glowfish area. It's like nonstop. And you hear them saying, "Oh, I want this. I want this." It's not every time, but like it's overwhelming that. When I see people in there, they're always hollering about the glowfish tank. So that being said, how much good are those things for the hobby? Like, how many times does that go? Like, I know I've heard people talked about this, but that's where it starts. And then they get the bug and they say, well, I want to go more in the natural stuff. And then you don't know. You have somebody 20 years down the line that has a 100 tank fish room. I mean, but I don't know what the value behind those fish are for the hobby, but I think I don't think there should be hate behind it. And I see a lot of hate behind, not hate, but just people arguing the point that's not good for the hobby and blah, 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 blah. But little things like that.
Here's the way and like I said, I was at the beginning, I was one of those that was like, oh, this is BS. You know, I don't think that they should be doing that. But you got to stop and think about when you personally first came into the hobby, if you didn't have a previous generation that kept fish that passed down some knowledge to you, what's going to grab your attention is what you like. You know, what you know, whatever you're not necessarily thinking, oh, I want to get this fish because I think it's going to go well with this and that, and I know it needs this. Very few people, but even in today's, with all the information being available, very few people really put in the time to do the research before buying the fish. Your very first purchase is usually an impulse purchase because you saw something that caught your attention and you thought it would be cool to have it. That's the reality. I would say, I would almost dare to say that 80%, if not more, of the people that are first time hobbyists, that's usually what's happening. And of course, you know, they're gonna, and you see it, and obviously the first fish they're gonna buy will more than likely be at one of the big box stores because they sell the kits. And then you have all these fish you can pick from. Now, some stores are better than others, where you have employees that'll caution people, where it's kind of like, well, yeah, you really can't put that fish with this fish because they're gonna fight and they'll kill each other. But not all employees do that. And then I had to catch myself one day because I was at a store just kind of looking like you do. If my wife and I go shopping and there happens to be a fish next door to the store that she's actually going to, well, I'm gonna go look at the fish.
Yeah.
And you know, and I don't know how many times I've had it where they'll approach and you know, I'm looking at something, they'll ask me if I need help, and you know, I'll ask a question, you know, some pertaining to the pricing or something on something. And I remember one time one employee said, well, how big is your tank? And at my initial reaction, my gut reaction was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, how big? I know what I'm doing. That's what I was thinking in the back of my head. And then I had to stop myself and go, wait, he's actually doing what this person is actually doing what they should do, because they can't assume that everybody that's there asking for stuff or about things knows what they're doing. So I had to kind of retract my thinking, and I was like, oh no, I told them, I said, oh, I got multiple tanks, but I'm just kind of curious about this and this and that. But yeah, I know that these fish don't necessarily go, these are community fish and these are cichlid. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're good then. I go, yeah, I'm just kind of browsing. So they left me alone. But it's so funny because one of the things, and the reason I found it interesting is because I myself have been like, well, these employees need to do a better job about educating the public. And here is a situation where the employee is trying to make sure that you get a buyer, and I'm sort of getting offended for what I am saying they should be doing. So I had to I really had to check myself and go, hey, you know, they don't know that I know. And they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. So kudos to them. I didn't say anything good. I'm glad I didn't open my mouth, because I would have been so hypocritical and such a retard. Because that's probably the worst kind of customer, is like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Leave me alone. You know? But you know, I just thought it was one of those things where I had to laugh at myself.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I've seen videos of people talking about just exactly what I think we all have done that. We've been, and you're like, yeah, I know that my tank's big enough or whatever. We all have, like, I've done that before. I didn't say anything, but you're 100% spot on. And I seen a video of somebody doing that, and they took real offense to that. They were going, do they know who I am? And they're asking me if I need to know if I have enough tank space. And it's like, hey, again, what's their clientele? Their clientele, for the most part, right, is, you know, we all go in there. I go in there. That who doesn't go in there to buy tanks that have been, like, most people that have been in the hobby forever are buying tanks there, and they're buying the fluvels and all that stuff there, but they don't, the general what I hear all the time. Here's another comment I hear on there all the time. Customers that come in here and they say, well, I'm here to buy some more fish. They last for 6 months and they die. I've heard that comment many times. And so but that's another whole thing because of, big, cheap fish. I'm not, but I'm just saying just the whole, people complain, not complain. And I just hear the topics I hear is they sell sick fish, blah, 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 which is true. But the cost of the fish at these stores are next to nothing, right? Like they're selling them for like $3, $2, $5. And it's like, how is a company supposed to sell a super great fish at such cheap prices? And I don't even know what my point is here, but I mean, I'm just talking about things that I hear over there all the time. And I almost think they're, because diseases, I got hammered when I first got back into this hobby because I never did live bear. I didn't do live bears, nano fish. I didn't know anything about them. I just accidentally brought them home. And I don't know about you, but I got really unlucky with just diseases. And then that's when I started like looking around trying to buy higher quality and all that stuff. And it was still, I found myself getting fish that were sick that cost me $50 a pair versus sometimes it's just as much as sick as a box store. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know where I'm going with this besides, let's get healthier fish.
Well, but here's the thing though. Here's the other side of that coin, because over the course of getting to know more hobbyists, I've never had to work at a pet store, not because I didn't want to. I just never had that opportunity. But I know people that have worked at pet stores and stuff like that, and they're also hobbyists. Yeah, and they go through the whole process of explaining to the people, this is the reason you can't do this. You got to cycle your tank, because here's the typical scenario that happens. I would almost say 99% of the time. A family comes in, they want to get an aquarium for their kid, they want to buy the equipment, and they want to buy the fish and put everything together that same day. Yeah. And I don't know how many times employees or ex-employees that have had to deal with that similar situation will try to explain to the customer, you got to, there's a process that needs to go by and you won't be able to put fish in there immediately. Then the customer gets pissed off because they know what they want and they want to get what they want. And it becomes one of those things. Well, what do you do as an employee? I mean, if you're working at a mom and pop fish store, you could tell them that you're not going to sell it to them. But like at a Petco, I guarantee you as an employee, you deny them a sale, I'm pretty sure the store manager is going to have something to say about that. True. And you probably won't be working there very long after that. Yeah. So at the end of the day, and I've heard the stories where it's like, well, fine, then I'll go to so-and-so store because they'll sell me everything there at once. Yeah. Or you get the whole scenario where, okay, you convince them, they don't take the fish, they'll take the equipment, but then they'll try to come back either later that day or the following day, hoping that you're not there to be able to do what they want to do, even though the information has been given to them, because people are funny like that. They want it now. Now. Mm-hmm. No, that's true. Well, that's too. Well, that also stems too because some of those fish are so cheap. I bring this up a lot of times too. I go, if you were starting a new aquarium, when people ask me how long do you cycle tanks, all this stuff, I go, when fish are so cheap, there's no skin in the game, right? If you're buying fish that are $3 each and that you got 5 of them for $15, and you say, hey, your fish, your tank needs to be cycled. But what happens if that? Would you feel comfortable buying $100 fish and knowing that I wouldn't even feel comfortable running a tank for a month and buying $100 fish. I would want that tank to really be seasoned before putting it in. So I always get onto these weird things, but I'm just thinking like the point when fish are so cheap, just like the
people that come in and say, well, I'm just here to buy every 6 months. I just buy more fish because they die on me. I don't know what the answer to that, but I don't know how you get that across people's minds when you tell them I'm here. You know, you need to let your tank run for a while before selling it. And then you have the whole business model side of it where people are trying to keep the lights on. And you're saying, am I going to get this guy back if I don't sell him fish? And that's where I guess you have I guess it's like anything in life. You have the independent stores that stick by guidelines and fish comes first. And then you have other ones like, I mean, just think about it. If you have a huge overhead on some of these shops, can you afford to tell somebody to like, oh, just come back in a month or two and then we'll sell you some fish? Or, I mean, I don't know. There's just so many variables that goes on in the hobby, which creates all these crazy topics that they're in the answers. There's really sometimes there's just not really a good answer to a lot of this stuff. So
yeah, it's I always find it really interesting because a lot of these comments, and I'm personally guilty of the same thing. It's real easy to say, well, they should do this or they should do that. You know, this is the way they should conduct their business.
Yeah.
Unless you're in those shoes, you really don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
For example, you run a small business out of your place.
Yeah,
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that personally?
Well, to be fair, I pretty much just sell some fish to some shops, you know what I mean, every once in a while. And I haven't done it a lot. It's a good idea. In the back of my head, this is a hobby first. I loved, and it's about a big part of having this is it really helps me relax. Cause I'm wound up pretty tight and I just like it allows me to escape. So this is my therapy, like a lot of people are. And I got in, I had no intentions of like thinking I could sell fish and all that stuff. But the more and more I go with this, I'm thinking I am breeding a lot. It is nice. It'd be nice to make a little bit something out of this, but I'm not there yet where, I'm not there far as I'm trying to make money to try to support this or even I'm still meshing that over because, you know, everybody's dream, a lot of people's dreams are, I want to own a fish store. I want to make an online business and all this stuff. And I've already worked in the hobby and I've seen the struggles. He's a really good friend of mine that I've seen the struggles of him running a fish store, and it becomes your passion for the hobby. Once you have money tied to it and you have to sell stuff to make things happen, you can lose the passion real quick because of the stress. So I'm really keeping a fine line of what I want to do with that. So that doesn't really, so I'm not really the idea of trying to turn some money around on this would be nice, but I'm real cautious. And I'm also cautious that I'm not there yet far as the health. Like I'm saying with this, I want to make sure if any fish leave this room, I don't want to put somebody else in a predicament of having unhealthy fish because I just got wrecked by that when getting back into that. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm kind of idling on the sideline, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. But I don't know, George. I don't know.
So at the end of the day, if somebody comes to you and you know that they're first time, you know, purchase, would you sell them or not?
It's not. Yeah, I would if they're serious. I get it all the time. People asking me, and I respond, and then it just falls apart. And I have, you know, I've gave more away than I've sold. I sometimes help people out, like, you know, in the local area and stuff. But I would. Yes, I would. But I'm still in the. I still trying to get experience with. I've been, you know, I did some random giveaways, and that was for shipping reasons, trying to get information. Did the bags leak? Did it arrive there? did it right there alive. And so I've done that, and I've had pretty good luck. I shipped some plants out, and I guess like not a customer, the person that won the raffle, they said they showed up like half cooked, and the other one said they showed up perfectly fine. So that's where, for where I'm at with that, the right person that is like, am I open for business to just let anybody hit me up? It's the serious person that wants to get it. I am open to that, yes, but I'm not. I'm kind of pushing. To be honest with you, I'm trying to push down more of the volume side of it than the independent side of it, like just independent sales. It's just, I mean, the little bit of experience I've had that with, even with giveaways, I've had issues with giving stuff away. So let alone when somebody gives you money for something, I don't need that. I'm nervous about adding that kind of stress to the hobby for me. So where I go, I don't like this no more. You know what I mean? Like, so as of now, I'm doing it as, if I can have fun with fish, make a little extra, pay for some fish food, which that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And we'll just see where it goes. I'm kind of like you, where I'm just I'll play it by ear, and we'll just go for the whatever it turns into. And that's where I'm at. I'm more of right now. Right now, my main thing would be I'm more about supporting people that are doing that, and I've been buying from multiple different places, trying to figure that all out, and trying to share a little bit of business with a little bit of everybody, because there's so many people out there doing this. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and it's hard. Believe it or not, it's hard for me it's not easy for me to get rid of fish. I kind of hoard on. I look at them, I go, I don't want to get rid of these things. This tank behind me, I'm supposed to be for the last 6 months, I'm supposed to go dump these things out. And I'm just like, I don't know if I can do it, and so that's kind of where I'm at. I know it's the whole, I guess it's the hoarding deal.
Well, and I think that's part of the hobbyist side of it, because you're not thinking more of a business side.
Yeah.
It's the collectoritis, as some people mention it, or the multi-tank syndrome. You have all those tanks because you wanted to keep all those different species. So I get it. Yeah. There's times where I think, I don't want to get rid of these guys, but then you can only keep so many, because after a while it's like, well, where do you put more?
Yeah, especially live bears, man. Like, that's what I'm slowly reducing my guppies. You know what I mean? Because those and endlers and guppies, I mean, regardless, even if you don't want to do that or not, it's gonna force you to get rid of fish, because they just don't stop. So I'm still learning. I got so much to learn. I got tons to learn with breeding and all that stuff. I consider myself right I'm in the middle of the road far as a hobbyist. I don't know all the names. I don't know all the special. I get buried on that far as when it comes to science, because it's actually really impressive when you listen to people just ramble off I can't even pronounce the name, and they're just rambling off 100 different names. And it's like, man, I had a hard time at school, and that to me is like schoolwork, trying to look at that stuff. It's like, man, so pretty fun.
Yeah. The thing that I'm constantly struggling with is I really enjoy the looking into the aquarium, kind of enjoying the fish.
Yeah.
But I also kind of really intrigued with the breeding side of it. So my fish room is kind of, depending on the mood or the time of the month, it starts becoming more of a display setup, where there'll be days where I come in here and go, I'm going to quit breeding. I'm just going to keep really nice scape tanks.
Yeah.
And then I'll start going, oh, but I really like these fish. And I think for me is because I don't have the immediate access to fish, that when I do get something that's pretty cool, I just want to get more of them. And the easiest way for me to try to make more of to get more of them is to make more of them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's the constant battle that goes on with me. And then there's times where I get really excited and I go, oh, you know what? I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna breed all these fish and I'm just gonna, when I have a good quantity, I know where I can take them and they'll take them from me. But then there's times where it's like, nah, but that tank looks really cool with 100 guppies in there. I don't want to mess that up. So that's a constant battle because I have not made the determination whether I am going to continue to just be a hobbyist or do I want to be a breeder. And trying to find that balance between the two is where the challenge really lies. Because as much as I try to do both of them, there's certain things that you need to do that would be better or more beneficial for whatever side you decide. For breeding for profit, the best thing to do is have bare bottom tanks and you're removing fry, and so that you can maximize the success rate, the profit. But I'm personally struggling with, I don't like the way a bare bottom tank looks like. I like plants, I like this, I like that. And it's always that my justification is always, oh, you know what I'll do? It'll be a breeding tank, but at the same time, I can take advantage of that real estate and propagate plants. That's the justification. But that never really works out. When it comes time to trying to, this last time that I had an order to take up to Phoenix, supposedly the shell dwellers that I have was supposed to be a quote unquote a breeding tank, but I ended up escaping it. It was a total pain in the butt to try to remove the fry out of there.
Oh, my bad.
And so it's like, you know what? I don't necessarily want to become a breeder of these anymore. I said to myself, what I'm going to do now, because the lesson that I learned is, and I've seen this done, if you're breeding those guys for profit, the best thing you can do is get PVC elbows with the little cap on the one end.
Oh, yeah.
You scare them, you scatter, you go in there, scare them. They'll all scare into the little pipe. You pull the pipe out, open up the cap, and pull the fish out. I know that's the way to do it. Ask me if I've done that. I don't want to do it because it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. So here again, it's that fight between, I want to breed these guys for profit because I know that those will fetch a pretty good return for the fish room.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want my tank to look like a breeder tank. That's the reality. So it's that whole, what do you do? What really do you want to do? So I know I was telling you the other day that I'm playing the long game. I think by the time I decide that breeding for profit is going to be my thing, I've already gotten the whole the scaping of tanks and all out of my system, because I'm looking at maybe at least 12 years down the road before I can retire and really be able to breed, because you got to stay on top of the fry if you're trying to breed for profit, because you got to feed them multiple times. You got to make sure the parents don't eat them. You got to do constant water changes so that they grow quicker. There's all this work that needs to happen to be successfully breeding for profit. Again, because what you just mentioned, if you're going to the store and you're paying $2 for a fish, well, at wholesale, that fish is probably what, about 50 cents, 25 cents.
If you're lucky.
That's the whole thing. Then that's why you need to maximize the amount that survive so that you can get a little bit of return on what the time is the biggest thing. Time is the one thing you're never going to be able to recuperate. And then whatever you're spending, because it costs money to feed them. The regular water changes, that's a water bill that you got to pay for. The electricity you're running in your fish room, that's another bill you got to pay for. If you live in an area like I do, if I want to cool the room, that's an extra cost, because now I got to buy an air conditioner and I have to pay for the consumption of that. It's all these things that go into play. Why, if you're going to become a breeder, you really have to maximize it. And I'm not there. I'm not at that point. I'm not even close to being at that point.
Yeah. You basically well, everything you just said is exactly what I've got, what I'm going through and what I've gone through. It's a spot on exactly where I'm at as well. It's just, you know, the one thing, like, a lot of times where people don't understand, unless you're selling retail. See, that's unless you're selling retail, the amount of money you're going to get for a fish are way. It's because most people are importing fish on top of it, and they're getting the most expensive thing is the shipping. It's not even the fish half the time. So, I think what I think is really cool about all that side, like for like Dan's Fish, right? You watch him. He always says, "I pay 25% of retail." I think that's very fair. That's very fair what he's offering, because people, unless you have some kind of rare something that people really want that can fetch a high price, which I talk about still, is like there's only so many people that are going to spend $20 and up. Like, how many people out there that are going to spend $20 to $50 on a fish? There's not a lot of people out there that will do that.
Yeah,
So
it's a
yeah,
small market that's available for that.
yeah,
And that's for people like fall in our situation, that we
yeah,
understand the pricing, because we're more nerd hobbyists, I guess.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're not just, you're understanding, either one, it's a hard to find fish, or two, it's it's just, they just fetch that much money because they're hard to breed and hard to obtain, or I don't know. There's different
Yeah.
reasons why something will cost more than others, why they have a higher value. So yeah.
And then, like, especially when you get into real high end stuff too, like, like, there's so many different niches in here too. And there's so much I mean, the aquarium world is so much like the fishing world, as far as you get all these different, you get different groups of people, and then you get really advanced hobbyists, which they all talk to each other, and they're all breeding and they're all trading. So there's a lot of that, like that, where I sometimes it upsets people, but I always say, just keep in mind, when you're trying, you got a pleco, you can breed it, and you said that's going to fetch me $50. How many people are going to buy that from you direct at 50? And then, not only that, a lot of these inner circle, like, high end breeders, they're all giving the buddy price. They're all giving, what I mean, they're trading. So that's why, when when Dean at Aquarium Coas, he always says, my bread and butter are my angels, because he's getting $2 to $5, like a $2 to $5 a fish is a home run for him. Yeah, it's not trying to get $30-$40, wholesale pricing for some super rare stuff. But I don't know. When I talk about that, people will sometimes get upset, but I'm not trying to, like, discourage people, but I'm trying not to say, if fish keeping's about dollar bills, when you're, like, getting into it and you see a fish and say, oh, I can make $50 a fish if I can breed this thing, I just think you're going to be in for a lot. It needs to be more than just about I can turn, because there's those group of people where there's groups of people. Well, I don't even know if they're hobbyists. They're just trying to make a business out of things, and the fish are dollar bills. And I guess that's whatever floats your boat. The money side of it, and this thing, like anything in life, there's a very small percentage of people that are doing well at it. Most of us are just paying for fish food, maybe paying for some fish. That's the reality of it. But that being said, it doesn't mean you can't be one of those top 5% that make a really nice living at it. You know what I mean? So there's a reason why fish sellers import fish for the most part, and they flip fish. They don't raise fish.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you get to the point where you're trying to raise those fish, that's when the expense starts adding up, and there isn't going to be such a return on it. But it's it's one of those things where I see it happen quite a lot, especially with like new hobbyists, that they get excited about, well, like what you're saying, the dollar signs behind, but with the lack of understanding of what's going on with that there's a cost that's being passed on at different stages that makes that value increase. But you, as a hobbyist, it's going to be real hard fetched to be able to get that. And then the one thing that people don't really talk about, at least breeders and stuff like that, is like you just touched on it. You're gonna have to import at some point, and they don't talk about the losses. How much of that import? How much of that import are you really being able to make it survive and get healthy and be able to sell? Not necessarily get healthy, but that comes in at a I guess a health where you can sell it, where it's not looking like it's half dead, like the stuff you see at the big store.
There's I'm about an hour away from Garden Grove, where there's a lot of small shops, a lot of they're shipping in from Thailand, Vietnam, and I watch those guys bring shipment, and you could just see just hundreds of floaters. I mean, those guys are buying those fish at prices where you're just that's just a calculation of it. Because if you're buying a guppy for $1 each landed, because you're bringing in a few hundred, you don't know. Maybe they're buying them for even less, because a lot of those. But once they count the deads, that dollars, that 50 cent to $1 fish is now $4 or $5 their cost. But
it's like, and then when you're first getting into this, there's always that gamble until you find the good importer, I guess. I have a friend of mine, and he was telling me he had a shipment come in, and he had about 78% of it died off.
Oh yeah,
that is a huge loss. And that's something he's gonna have to absorb, and so that's all money that he's not. Yeah, you could reach out to the importer and they'll give you credit or whatever, but that's still money that's
doesn't include that $500 shipping fee.
And that was what I wanted. The one thing I wanted to touch on with the 25% that Dan pays on that. The one complaint I've heard about that, and I don't know if he's ever been very clear about it or people are not understanding. Yeah, he's paying you 25% of the retail, but he's also out of that 25. That's where the shipping for the stuff is coming out of. So at the end of the day, you're not getting
landed. He always said that's right.
The entire 25%. And I've heard some people that have gotten upset because they're thinking, oh, okay, I'm gonna get 25% gross. And no, which at the end of the day, I don't know if it's sometimes people overvalue what they have. I think in general it's natural to overvalue what you have, especially if you're seeing that the retailer is making 3 to 4 times of what you got paid for it. But again, there's a whole other process that goes behind that. You could be 100% sure that your fish are healthy and all that stuff, but maybe that company's already got a protocol where they go and regardless of where the fish is coming from, they're still going to put it through their quarantine process, their medication process, and that's all an expense. And I just think if there was a lot more conversations had like that, people would have a better understanding, and then they could kind of go, oh, okay, this is the reason why this costs this much, or why I'm only getting this much, and they're having to turn around and because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be able to recuperate their investment. That's really what it boils down to.
Well, when I've had people say that, I've had discussions about that too, and I go, it's real. In my opinion, it's really easy. If you think it's unfair, let's just say somebody wants to give you 25% landed price fish, right? And you're saying, well, that's a ripoff. These fish are selling for $20, and I'm not going to get whatever $3, $4, $5 a fish. Well, there's one way to fix that. Sell retail. Go start an online site, start a business, and then because people I get it. I went through that whole thing too when I went and first dropped off my first fish, and I go, "Wow, it felt like I got robbed in a way because you're attached to, man, that took me 6-7 months to raise those fish up, and all that time, and I'm barely walking out of here with $100 bill." Well, there's one way around it. Sell retail, and once you do that, you'll feel the if you've never had a small business, it's hard to appreciate how much goes into a small business and what your margins have to be. And that's the bottom line. If you've never had there's so much work in a small business, and there's so much going on that you have to get those margins on there. Just like you said, you got dead fish, you got electrical. I know people say Dan, I know I talk about Dan's fish way too much, but there's not too many people doing it the way he's doing it, where he literally does a biopsy of a fish. He has a trained person that looks inside the fish, gets exactly what's going on with the fish, treats the fish exactly for what it needs. Think of the expenses. Just to have somebody that's trained to identify all these diseases and stuff, and that's where that extra percentage of money is coming from, because he has to pay top dollar for stuff like that. And he seems like he's doing well, but I don't think if you knew the operating costs of the expenses, I don't know if he's buying a Lamborghini tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know anybody that's in this business that's really a millionaire just selling fish, unless you're one of the big established farms out there. But it's all volume related. And even those guys, I think, are working on a almost shoestring budget. It's kind of like there's a lot of things that could really break those businesses. But I don't know. I get it. I know Tommy is talking about, a lot of it is just to mark up and for excuses for charges and all that stuff. And I kind of assumed that in the beginning too, but the more that I do this, the more you start realizing there's a lot of costs that you don't really take into consideration until you actually sit down and you start doing the breakdown.
Yeah.
And if my wife were to come to me and say, "Hey, what's your budget for the fish room?"
Yeah.
I guarantee you these fish tanks would be out of here in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah. Well,
so that's why
that is your time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's like I said, that was the one thing I told you that we never going to get back. That's there's only a finite amount of time, and how you decide to spend that is a big part of it, because you're not getting that back. And we all know that we have a limited amount of that. It's not infinite, because we all die. Yeah. We all die at some point. Yeah. Some of us sooner than others, but we're all going to get there. And that's just the blunt reality of being a human. So but I don't know. I still do this because there's a lot of enjoyment to it.
Yeah.
And I know there's always those fantasy thoughts where you think, oh, I could potentially make this a business, which doesn't mean you can't, but you got to be a realist. You really have to do your research. And the problem with me, I know at the beginning of this year, I was really excited. I thought, all right, because people kept asking me, do you sell fish? Do you sell fish? And there's a demand because, like I said, all we have is a PetSmart in town. That's it.
Yeah.
And I thought, all right, well, I'm going to start opening up my fish room to do retail, because most of the stuff I was doing was just basically wholesale at a real small schedule. I mean, a really small size. And so I opened it up, and the first couple of times it went well. Yeah. But because we're a small market, guess what? I flooded the freaking market. It gets to that point where all your potential customers that were going to buy it from you are have already purchased from you, and then every other guy that comes in here has the same idea of breeding those fish and reselling them. So
Yeah.
so now not only are you competing in a small market, but you're competing with other people that are doing the same thing. So I've come to the point now where if people, I don't go out of my way to advertise that I'm selling. People know, and if they come to me, that's fine. My focus has been more of I'll do the small scale wholesale because that just it just makes it easier. And I understand why a lot of fish breeders decide to go that route because you're not having to deal with the nickel and diming. You already know this group of fish for this many is going to fetch me this much, and that's it just makes it easier that way too, for me.
Oh, for sure. It's a ton of work, and it only like it's a ton of work. And if you're not doing it at the highest levels, and you ship somebody out, and then like the right thing to do it, in my opinion, if I was going to do this, and I have to guarantee the fish, I have to guarantee the shipping. Like I can't say, oh, your fish is dead, but I don't do shipping. That would just be me. I got you, and the fish. But how many the shipping is so expensive.
Yeah.
If you don't have a budget, and if you don't have enough experience with shipping, you're going to run into having issues with some of the, because fish can get battered in the mail, man. It's not, you can have a perfectly healthy fish in that bag, and then somebody plays soccer with it, you know what I mean? And then you show up dead fish. But I bought a lot of fish online. I bought a lot of fish from a lot of different places. And I would say 50% of the time, the fish are showing up nice. You know what I mean? About 50, like if I were just to randomly go onto eBay and buy from 15 different sellers, and then I just go randomly searching for new things, it's about 50% of the time for me, like I said, I could be maybe I'm super unlucky and I'm picking the wrong places. But that's my experience with guppies anyways. I don't know. I haven't really guppies and corridoras. I've actually had a lot of bad lucks with corridoras being shipped to me. I don't know if that's just a hard ship or what, but it seems like corries are, like when I bought from random places, corries are showing up dead on arrival a lot. If you got 10, I got 3 or 4 dead on delivery. But that being said, I know it. Like I just say what is experienced, like what I've experienced, and I know there's a lot of people out there. Like I want to try my next place. I want to try Moonlight Aquatics. I don't know if you've ever tried them.
I've heard them, but I've never. To be honest, I don't think no, I don't think it's not. I don't think I've never imported any fish or wholesaled any fish. Most of my fish I've either picked up at a store or at a fish swap. That's how
they're a retail outfit. Like, but I forget the guy that but they have some really nice fish on there that you don't see every day over there, and they're fair. They're like their pricing's smart. But that's what I'm doing right now. I know. Of course, so far with the little bit of places I really like buying. I bought from Dan Fish. I like that. I bought from LRB Aquatics. I like him. Lucas over there in Florida, he does a great job. I've had great luck with him. And then, I bought a few times from Aqua Huna, which is mixed results. But I mean, that's more of I explain to people, that's like when you buy from them, that's the experience you're going to get what if you had a fish store, because they're a wholesale, they package like wholesale, and a lower price, but you're getting a fish that's not quarantined. Yeah, I think they're just flipping. I think they're moving stuff on scale to get that price down. But there's a ton of people out there. That's where I'm at. there's a ton of people out there doing it right. I just don't have enough money to try them all yet. You know?
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm reading the comments in the chat. And one of the things that I've always said, especially like people like you, people like Ross. Ross is talking about buying from Moonlight for years, and he says he's had very good experience with them. Highly recommends them. Ed is another guy, Ed Aquatics and Exotics, but he deals more with the rare fish, kind of like gadates and stuff like that. The advent of having a social media presence, if you're trying to get into this business, it's like everything else: reputation. This allows you a platform where you can, basically use it as a ad. It's by you doing videos of your fish room, what you do, what your care is, the steps you take, and showing people why you're doing that stuff builds credibility. It builds that ability for people to feel a little bit, even though they don't know you personally, but because you've kind of opened up your operations to show what it is you're doing, the steps you're taking to make sure that your fish are healthy. It allows you to have a little bit more success as a business person, because at the end of the day, especially us that are hobbyists, which are most of us that are here, are always looking to buy better quality fish. Now, by you taking advantage of this platform and you're trying to sell fish, I'm going to be able to see what you're doing and go, yeah, that's pretty spot on with what I would do. Or you would be able to see and go, oh, I don't know, maybe I don't want to buy fish from him because he does stuff that I don't feel comfortable with. Yeah. And so I really am a big advocate of if you want to have a successful business in this hobby, you have to have a presence on social media. There's just no ands or ifs about it. You have to do it because this is the way people, like you were talking about Dean. The reason Dean has that recognition is because not of his own doing, because Corey has really promoted him, but what has he done? He's always talking about what he does. He goes to his fish room, shows you what he's doing in his fish room, how he and Dean's getting better about being more in front of the camera and talking about what he's doing. So as a hobbyist, when you start seeing people do things that you understand and you will go, oh yeah, that's right. That's, what it resonates with you as being a good fish keeper. Then you have a little bit more confidence to go, yeah, I can buy stuff from him because I know that he's taking at least these steps to make sure that he's putting out a quality product. Yeah. Now the whole pricing and all that stuff, again, there's a lot of things that we might not be aware of that goes into the pricing of that. I understand it. It's a business. You're trying to maximize their profit. I'm not going to hate on anybody for trying to make a successful business. Oh, that's because if I was in that situation, I'd probably be doing exactly the same thing. I want to be able to get the maximum amount for what I am doing, or else you're not going to be a successful business. It is a business at the end of the day. Hey, Keith, thank you so much for being here, man. At the end of the day, if you're trying to run a business, you're trying to make the most out of it that you can. Some people might tell you, oh, I just want to be able to recuperate my costs. Yeah, but I know down deep inside, if you could be doing better, you wouldn't be upset. Yeah. If you make more than what you were expecting, I have never met somebody that has a business that gets upset because they're making a lot more money than they expected to make.
It's too much money.
Yeah.
No, for sure. No, I hope everybody that breeds fish, they make a gazillion dollars. I really do. I just sometimes you just, and I don't, like I said, I'm in the middle of the road. I'm learning all the time. I got a ton to learn. I've messed around with some small businesses before, and I just know that, like, the only way, if you want to make money, I think if you really are, or if the money is 100% about it, you have to build your own business and sell at retail, or you have to have a scale. Like most people are small. Like I have 50 aquariums. That's small. That's kind of small for like if you're going to try to make some money out of it, in my opinion, if you want to scale, then you can really probably, because each tank you have to look at it. Each tank, I need to make $50-$100 a tank, X amount of whatever it was. So that's the realistic, like, of, unless you have like a breeding program. Like the only person that I see that does it in a smaller setting is Dean, but he has a setup where there's a lot of water. You know what I mean? His water changes are going nonstop, and that guy will put 300 fish in 300 fry in a 20-gallon because he has that flow through systems. Like, and he says going on such scale. So I just don't like talking about, like, I'm never trying to talk anybody out of doing it. Just try to like get a game plan together, like anything, and try to be at least have an idea of what you're looking at, instead of getting like happened to me when I went and dropped off my first thing. I was just a little sticker shock where I'm like, wow, I thought I was going to get more than that. And you feel like you kind of got like took an advantage of it. It was just a fair price. It was just what you get.
Yeah. And that's why, I know there's sometimes some hesitation from talking about these topics, because there could be that negative blowback where people are like, "Oh, you're just being greedy."
Yeah,
but it's a business, and
yeah.
in a business, you're gonna. Why do you start a business if you're not looking to clear a profit?
Yeah,
that's the only way you're going to be able to stay in business, is to be able to get a return so that you can reinvest it into your business. That's the only way this works. And unfortunately, this is a real a business with real tight margins too, though. That's the other thing. There's not it doesn't take you much to side rail you with, if you get a bad shipment, like I was talking about my friend, that 78% of the fish that came in, 79% of the fish that came in all died.
Yeah.
And he's got to reorder, and in that reorder they'll be able to, send him whatever it is that he needs to recuperate. But now he's got money that he can't play with, and if he didn't have a reserve to be able to foresee those things, then he would be out of business. He would be done. And a lot of those conversations are conversations that are not had, that I think that people are thinking about doing this would benefit from hearing, because it would allow them to do a better informed decision. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to inform yourself. I know we're as hobbyists tend to be very passionate, and we believe in what we're doing, and we think we've got it figured out. But it's just the profit margins on this they're slim. So if you're in a business where the profits are really slim, anything that goes wrong is going to drastically affect how your business does. And whether it's changing in trends, because that's the other thing. We were kind of talking about this in the beginning, going back to when, in the beginning, in the, let's say, late 80s, early 90s, the hobby was very different. Imagine that you had a business in that time, and you knew what was selling then, and all of a sudden a new African cichlids hit the market.
Yeah.
And and you've got all your money tied up on all these South American cichlids that nobody wants anymore, because they want to get the newest and latest trend. So how do you reverse gears? Because now you're stuck with all this inventory. You didn't have money set aside to, like, a contingency plan. So now you're stuck. And where you used to be able to move your inventory, you already had it figured it out. Now you're kind of, is like, well, shit, now I gotta drop the price on this stuff, try to get it out the door so that I can go buy the next trend and hopefully stay afloat. And those are the things that I don't hear being discussed in a lot of these live streams, unless you get real geeky and you go to, like, the fish club meetings. And even then, a lot of the times you're not talking about the business of the fish keeping.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I do appreciate about Corey. I know a lot of people like to hate on Corey and Aquarium Co-op. But as a person that's sort of interested in the business side of this, I really applaud what he does because he gives you a lot of insight on what he's done that has allowed him to have success.
Oh yeah.
And you know, so you know, you at the end of the day, people are just flawed. None of us are freaking perfect, and we're going to have things that I'm sure there's plenty of things that people hate about me.
All of us.
I'm not. There's a saying in Spanish that we say, no soy monedita de oro para caerle bien a todos. Meaning, I'm not a golden coin where everybody's gonna like me. It's just, you're gonna find people that'll agree with you, and you're gonna find people that disagree with you. I don't agree with everybody, and we're just humans at the end of the day. But like I said, going back to Corey, one of the things the reasons that I like to listen to him speak, especially when he starts talking about business side, is because I do learn a lot of stuff. I'm at an age now where I want to learn from other people's mistakes. I'm done learning from my own mistakes because my own mistakes cost money.
Yeah.
And if I can learn from somebody else's failures, I'd be stupid not to take advantage of that. When I was younger, I didn't understand that. I was like, nah, I'm going to learn. I'm going to find out the hard way.
My way.
That's normal because you're young and you're trying to open, your own path, and you're not smart enough to realize that people are trying to prevent you from stumbling on the same things. Now, have those been the most valuable learning lessons? Probably because they hurt the most. When shit goes sideways, that's the stuff that really sticks in the back of your mind. Whether it's, and I'm not just talking about, the fish business. I'm just talking about life in general.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, shit. And then when it happens, it's like, yeah, they were right. Now I get it why they were telling me what they were telling me. I shouldn't have done that. But you go through a few of those and probably go unscathed, other than a bad memory. And you quickly learn that if you continue to go down that path and not listen to the advice of other people, it's not going to end up well. We got prisons full of people that have not wanted to take that lesson. And, so yeah, I can appreciate people like him, people like Dan, people that are successful business people and giving you the insight. And I know sometimes people don't want to hear it because I don't know if it's just a bit of resentment because they're having success. Not everybody's happy when they see successful people. That's the reality. That's just another human nature.
Yeah.
Jealousy is a real thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it's
that's a good, if you, like you said, if you ain't like, I don't know what, like, that's crazy. Like you're saying with Corey and stuff like that. I don't know. Me and you think exactly that we're spot on when you're saying something. It's exactly where, I don't know what that guy gives so much information that he doesn't have to share. And like that a lot of business people want it. He shows you the whole operation and all that stuff. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the hate would be all about, because I don't know what he's just like literally saying, this is how I'm doing it.
Again, we're all humans.
Yeah.
We're not perfect.
Yeah, no, I get it.
There's stuff, and obviously this is stuff that has been told to me in confidence that, he's going to have his flaws and he's going to do shit that is not always looked at positively,
I get it. What's the business side of it that people will get in business, like we were talking earlier, and I don't know, like I'm not in the fish world enough to know like whatever like backdoor stuff, but anyways, in business, a lot of times you got to make unpopular decisions, and then sometimes it looked at like, I don't like the way he's doing things, and there's still moral. You still have to have moral decisions, but sometimes in business, and I don't understand business. I just been in business a few times and been through things where you have to make really tough decisions that are not going to be popular, and people are going to be not a fan of you when you have to make them. You know what I mean? Like, so, but that being said, again, you still got to do stuff honestly, and you can't be screwing people over and stuff like that. You still got to have integrity behind yourself.
Yeah.
So at least try to, anyways.
I don't know, but it's interesting because I don't know if it's the nature of being able to have success in business that sometimes is makes you do questionable stuff. Just think about our own history as our development of as a country. Think about the Rockefellers. Think about you know all these billionaires that existed back then. There's a lot of stuff that was, you know, underhand shit that was done to be able to be where they're at. You know, the Kennedys, you name it. Well, in current times, a Bezos or a Musk, or, you know, there's stuff that's going to happen that is never going to be popular with everybody. Some of it could be straight out just, you know, evil shit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It all depends what your ambition is, you know. I don't know if your ambition grows the more success you have. I don't know. I've never been in that situation, so I can't speak on it. Or is it just human behavior? But come to think of it, I don't know of any successful business person that you can't find a group of people that will disagree with them or hate them or not like them. It's just, you know, how much of that is resentment because they were actually able to work hard and get ahead, and how much of it is actually founded on truth. So I don't know. It's I've never been in that situation, and you know, so I really can't I can't give you any insight on that other than those people that are in that situation. But that's the whole side of it. But not to change. Well, yeah, I guess I'm going to be changing subjects. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is because I found you on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I was always curious about that because I've kind of dabbled a little bit in TikTok, but just on the very peripherals of it. I don't do a lot of the live streaming. I don't do content, no long form content. All it is really another place where I drop shorts. That's what my TikTok is.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing it as a means of revenue necessarily, because if I was, I'd be doing different things. And I know you have a very good opinion. You have your own take on what TikTok's all about, and I found that interesting. I don't know if that's something you openly want to talk about here or not.
Sure.
But we can talk a little bit about why did you decide to start out on TikTok to begin with?
Well, the only reason I started on TikTok because my a coworker of mine, he's been in YouTube. He's been in some pretty viral YouTube videos. He's done stuff with social media people, and he's kind of gotten out of it. But he told me you need to start on TikTok, and that was the only reason, because I just started. He goes, start on TikTok. He goes, that's the best, and then move to YouTube. So that was the plan, and I haven't done myself a lot of favors. I have a love-hate relationship with TikTok because but it's kind of changed a little bit because I think there's a lot of things going on there that necessary, like, I just think there's a ton of fake. I know that every site has it, but there's a lot of things going on TikTok that I don't even know if it's real people half the time. And it's a little it's a little different too, because it's definitely more. I know there's trolls everywhere, but it's definitely, you have that going on a lot over there. But I don't know, there's a lot of, it's changed over time. I felt like I was growing like crazy because in the beginning, I started with doing a few little paid little ads, and I would notice like my videos, I would post a video and then I would get maybe 1 or 2 likes, and then I would boost it and I got 50 likes, and then I kept on going with it. and going with it, and I'd get like 600,000, like stuff like that. But then more and more, I started researching. I'm like, these are like most people know that done like any social media. I'm like, these are not even real people. These are just bots or people putting likes and I mean, common sense is if I pay $20 on an ad and I get zero likes or not a good enough growth, I'm not going to pay $20 again, right? So you gotta get some. So anyways, I kind of was tricked into that, and and then I backed off on it, and then just been doing it more organic. But my view on it, I mean, it's a good tool to have. I think what you're doing is, I think that's great for it. I met a lot of people on there. There's a lot of cool people on there. I've met a lot of cool people everywhere online, but my views on it, it's a tool to have. Just do it when I talk about like what I'm talking about right now, and it hasn't done me any favors on TikTok. I mean, when you start talking about about what you think that's going on, I've noticed, I was growing pretty good, and it's kind of like petered out a little bit sometimes, but I don't know, George. I don't know what the answer is on that, but my view is I think it's a good little tool. It's a fun place to share. It's definitely a younger audience, and you definitely can get quite a bit of it's more hardcore as far as people coming in there saying you're doing it wrong, you know what you're doing, I mean, the troll side of it. YouTube seems more like more genuine. That's my take so far, and it just seems like people are more genuine, more serious about what you're doing. TikTok is I think there's a lot of people that they're just stopping down when you're doing live there. I think it might be good for this is introducing people to the hobby more, because you're getting a lot of people, I think they're just stopping because they're seeing a tank of fish and they're going, what is this going on here? And so that's I don't know really much more I don't know. It's good double-edged sword place, I think, in my opinion. If you're not thick-skinned, don't go on live. That's what I would say with that. But it's fun. Like I said, I've met people there. I've sold some fish on TikTok, and I don't know. What do you think about it? What's your opinion about TikTok?
I just think they're sort of, I use them as tools.
Yeah.
And here's my mentality behind this. I saw Whip's comment. I even copied it up there where he's talking about pick to one and stick to that. And I kind of agree depending on what you're trying to do with it. But I was a very early adopter when I started up my channel of trying to use all the platforms. Because I'm of the opinion the more exposure you get, the more people are going to be aware of the fact that you're out there. And, but I've always been very realistic of what my goals and my ambitions have been. I've always kind of been and I've stuck to them. I've been very true to them. I knew to go viral from, 1 minute to another, that's a 1 in a million. Very few people get to do that. What I have learned is that consistency and time is what's going to get you that success. Unfortunately, a lot of people come in to, for example, like us in this community, in the fish keeping community, a lot of you get, especially like the younger people, they look at some of the bigger channels that have a lot of subscribers and a lot of success, and they think, oh, that's what I want to do. They want to do this full time, and they want to do it tomorrow, not understanding that this is something that's taken them 10, 15 years to get to that point. When they started out, there was no money to be made for doing content on YouTube. There still isn't any money to be made. That's the sad part. It's even worse now, but at least there's goals to strive to. You do generate some I'm at the point now where it's self-paying for the fish room. And what I mean for that, it's paying for the food that I buy. It's paying for the food that I buy, and it might pay for a new fish that I want to get. But I mean, it's not covering my electric bill.
Yeah.
It's definitely not covering any mortgages or anything like that. It's to the point where it allows me to continue to keep these aquariums, to be able to try different fish, because it gives me enough to do that. And that's pretty much it. And then, but so knowing that, I knew that also YouTube seems to be like the home platform where you want to be at, because at the end of the day, everything I've seen, people that have amassed a good number of following, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok, I always hear them complain about the monetization is not there, that they're getting pennies on the dollar for doing all the work that they're doing. I know TikTok's a little bit better because the way you make money there is a lot of the live streaming. A lot of people will whether it's bots or not, because I know we've had that discussion in the past too, or you partner up and you start basically becoming what was those TV shows that where they sell stuff on like a QVC?
Yeah. Well, 100%. Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. And that's cool, whatever, you know, because I'm starting to see a lot more channels go that direction.
Yeah.
But for me, it's been a way to kind of, I use it as, that's why I do the shorts, because that's the easiest thing for me to do. If it takes me a whole minute to do a short, it's probably a lot, because I've gotten better at it now. I think the hardest part for me is actually picking the right song.
Yeah.
That's been the more challenging thing, trying to find the right mode that I'm trying to convey through the music.
Yeah.
But it allows people to see, oh, okay, he's got this and this and that, and hopefully that'll drive people over to my YouTube channel. That's the ultimate goal. I'm trying to use it as a feeder source to my channel. Granted, it's not going to bring in hundreds of subscribers, but if it brings one, that's one that I didn't have. And that's always, I'm kind of like the tortoise, you know, it's a marathon. So I'm looking at this as being a more than a 10-year run for me. So if every day I come in and I get one or two, you know, good. I'm having success. Yeah. That's success to me. If I am continually growing, organically growing, that in the long run is going to be more valuable than if I go and use one of these resources out there that guarantee you to, you know, get this many subscribers if you do this much amount of money. Well, in reality, how many of those are actually real people? That's the big issue.
Yeah.
And because a lot of that gets farmed out, and it's like you were talking about, fake accounts. And I don't know why people don't like talking about this shit, because that's the reality of it.
Oh,
and unfortunately nobody's exempt from that. There's a lot of people that are doing that. And but again, I don't care. I don't care. It's your channel. Do what you want. Just don't complain that you're not seeing the results that you thought you were going to see, because you knew exactly what you were getting into. And if you didn't, well, then shame on you for not understanding what you were getting into.
Yeah.
So with that being said, do what you want. But for me, it's been a way that not only am I driving traffic here, that's not even the best part of it. The best part of it is like what you said. Had I not been in TikTok, I wouldn't have found you.
Yeah.
That's the reality. I wouldn't have found you. And if I'm not on Instagram, I wouldn't have found some of the other people that I found there, like John from Planet Fish Tanks out of Tucson. So I'm more interested in making those human connections. So if I happen to be on a certain platform and all of a sudden I start meeting other people that are like-minded like me, there's going to be a lot of people that are just there for looky-loos, and that's fine. That's cool, whatever. But out of those hundreds of people that are there, if I find one or two that I can create a relationship, a friendship, shit, what better way to do it? Because the reality is, you and I crossing paths on everyday world are almost slim to none.
Yeah.
Unless you and I happen to coincide to be at a Coast meeting at the same day.
Yeah.
And we happen to sit next to each other and we start just, making small talk.
Yeah.
Chances of that happening are very slim. Whereas because of that social media, I'm looking around, I see you going live, I come in, I start interacting with you. Next thing you know, we're having conversations back and forth, and that's how friendships start. It's that's the way I treat all these other social medias. It's allowing me to connect with other people that are like-minded like me, that that share similar thoughts to what I have and how I look at this hobby. And the only way that's going to happen is if I look at that. So that's the only thing I have to say. I'm using those other platforms. It's not necessarily for the success of monetization or anything like that. For me, it's more of making those personal connections. And that's kind of what I do. But that's my reasoning behind why I do it. Would I recommend it to somebody? It depends what you want to do.
Yeah.
If your goal is X and that's going to allow you to get there, well, then do it. If you don't feel that is the same, it's going counter to what you want to do, then don't do it. It's that simple. Facebook is one that I've kind of abandoned completely. I think we all kind of start off the same way, where we're like, oh, I want to help out new hobbyists, and that's a very noble mentality, because if we can share our experience with others and help them go through, again, not have those bad experiences, personally go through them, that's cool. The problem is, and I think really where the problem is, it's those people that are just gotten past the beginner stage of the hobby that all of a sudden are dangerous because they have a little bit more information that they had, and they want to dictate how things are done. Those are the guys that are coming in. Oh, those fish are going to die. You can't keep a goldfish in this, or you can't do this. You can't. Oh, Betta needs 100 gallons. Or those are the people. And I don't really think that they're being trolls. I just think that they're enthusiastic new hobbyists, but they got way too much energy for me. So I'd rather not deal with them. I at one point thought that I was going to try to help out new hobbyists and give them information. I've kind of come to the realization that that's not necessarily the way this works. That being said, I've had people reach out to me on a one-on-one basis, and I'm gonna help you out in whatever way I can, with what little limited information that I have, and I'll pass it on to you. But I'm no longer going and seeking these people out and trying to help them out, because in the process of you jumping in there and trying to say something, you get like 10 other people that are jumping on your back. Oh, you're stupid. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't say that. And it's like, I don't need that aggravation. I really don't. There's enough stuff in this world to make your day go bad that you don't need to go out and seek it.
Yeah. Well, that goes on a lot over there, where somebody you get the questions I always get is, how many? I have a 20 gallon. How many fish can I put in it? How often should I do a water change? How often do I why did my fish die? Those are like the three ones. But what's interesting too is I've seen the same screen names, different screen names, the same on multiple platforms, asking that same question for like months. I've seen it I can't remember. I just remember this one kept on saying, I have a 20 gallon. How many fish can I put in it? And then I would see on YouTube the same thing, and then it'd come back on another TikTok channel, and they're asking the same question. And I saw that for many weeks, and I was like, I don't know if that's a bot or what, because I don't know if it's a bot or why would somebody for months asking the same question about a 20. I mean, it could be a person, but I just don't know. Nowadays, I don't know what the hell is real or not to say it's a huge problem, but I don't know what the hell sometimes real and what's fake. But the questions that you get, all that, a lot of these questions that you get to, where you get people chattering in the chat saying, oh no, you got to do it like this, there's no really right answer. There could be 5 answers to the same question depending on the situation. And if you say one thing, then they go off in another direction, which they're saying is necessarily true, but what you're saying is necessarily true as well. So that's what I see a lot in the hobby, where people are taking two different paths for the same outcome. And but I don't know.
I think it's the reluctance to understand that there's more than one way to do things. That's where the problem falls, is that people find that a way of doing things that works for them, and they think it's going to work for everybody. And the problem is, this hobby is not a one size fits all. There's a lot of factors that go into it that are different depending on where you're at. Shit, there's factors that are very different in my own freaking fish room. I'm struggling. I run about half of my fish room is filterless, and I was doing that to see, because I wanted to see if I had an issue with fish in general, because one of the biggest problems that I always hear people struggling with is power outages. So I said, what would happen if I was to have a big power outage and I'm no longer running air in my aquariums or any filter system? What's going to happen if that situation happens? Especially because I recently started feeling comfortable enough where I can leave my home for weeks at a time, and not have to worry about something coming in here and having to feed my fish or do anything, where at the end of the day, unless they're experienced hobbyists, are probably going to do more damage than good.
Yeah.
So that being said, I've gotten pretty good to the point now where I know I can anticipate what's going to happen with my aquariums if I run a filterless system. But how different are things that I have an aquarium here that is very much set up like all the other ones that are filterless, but I got cloudy water in there, and I haven't been able to get it to that bacterial bloom to clear up. And I tried initially doing partial water changes, because you're not supposed to do big water changes. And that hasn't cleared up. I've gotten to the point now where I'm just leaving it alone. And eventually it's going to rectify it. I need to trust my personal information to know, don't fuck with it, leave it alone.
Yeah.
It'll clear up on its own. And that's where I'm at now. But why is that one doing that and these aren't? That's the thing. That's like, so things can be, even within your own fish room, things can be very different. And so to sit there and say, no, you need to do this, is not always the right answer. It's not always going to be the solution to somebody's problem. So, but if you're trying to explain that through the keyboard, that's going to take forever. I can't type very fast. I'm a two-digit typer. My 2 index fingers is the way I type. And sometimes context doesn't necessarily come across on the keyboard either. So where you think you're speaking in a tone, the person that's reading it could misinterpret that and feel like you're harassing them. So there's a whole lot of miscommunication that happens, and sometimes you trigger off a whole bag of worms that you didn't want to get into. So I've gotten to the point now where, unless I have a conversation with somebody, whether they're willing to give me their number and we can talk, kind of like what we're doing now, or they want to come on here and we can talk about it, I quit trying to reach out. And I have the people that I deal with here locally, they all have my number, or they can get a hold of me through Messenger. And now you should tell them, it's let me call you, because it'll be a lot easier for me to tell you, especially if it's something that's a little bit more complicated, where it's going to require more than 45 characters to be able to explain something, because there's a lot of nuances that you got to be able to explain. And it's just, I quit trying to help people over the keyboard. I don't do it. Even on if I use Messenger, it's always voice. I try to, because it's too long. I'm not going to sit there and then you're limited by how much you can write, and then you're halfway through a thought and it's like, oh shit, no, well, now to break this up. It's just dialogue was not meant to be done through text.
No, heck no. I have a hard enough time just doing it over with. I mess, even the way I explain things. Sometimes people, when I'm talking out loud, I screw it up. And another thing too is when people come in a stream when you're like halfway through and they didn't listen to the front part of it. I've had that situation when I'm trying to explain something or talking about a subject, and they only get the first 15 seconds. A half an hour in, and they go, why are you saying that about that? You're like, did you listen to my content? You haven't listened to anything I've been saying. Like, one person tried to say, Yeah, I was talking about whatever. I was talking something about Dan's fish, and then he caught the thing, and he thought I was talking smack on Dan's fish. I go, "What are you talking about? I always say great things about that guy. I mean, what are you talking like?" I get into those things. That's on TikTok, but it's communication like in anything, and I'm not no professional speaker. So, and depending on my mood, that's another thing I have to watch, because sometimes I come home from work and I wear my emotion on my sleeve kind of guy, so I get into it sometimes and I catch myself. And so there's all the, like you said, we're all different people, and we all are, I'm not for everyone, for sure. I'm sure I pissed a lot of people off, but there's people that like me too. And that's the great thing about social media. I've never understand when somebody wants to go go crazy on why are you watching? Just go to the next channel. There's a million channels out there. Like, you can find somebody that you totally agree with, or what, or you're whatever, you align right. And you mingle good, whatever. But
Yeah, but you also got to understand that there's just people that's their joy in life, is just kind of
yeah.
trolling people. That's how they get their kicks.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a rare breed, because I've been very fortunate. I don't get a lot of trolls, and I don't
Yeah.
know if it's because I look like an honorary guy, or and they don't want to mess with me, or I just, maybe I have an innate way to deal with them, where I joke with them. I found out that the easiest way to get rid of a troll is to agree with them.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to leave. They want to leave you alone, because it's not fun to have an argument with somebody that's agreeing with you. It gets rid of that argument. But I found that people that get worked up about it and they engage and they start trying to rebut what they're saying, oh, that's when they love it. They love it, because that's exactly what they were trying to do. They were trying to incite a response from you, and you happen to give them the right response. And those people are the ones that get caught up with having to deal with constant trolls. And then it's like trolls, it's just like everything else. There's got to be a community of because I've seen it where it seems like they travel in packs. They'll come in and hit up a live stream or something, and they just start saying outlandish shit, and the host is sitting there and trying to engage with them and saying all this thing, and before you know it, there's like 5 people in the chat that are just going at it, and they get going sideways, and they end up all pissed off, and at the end of the day, the trolls are just laughing at it because they got away with what they wanted. And I see that more like on TikTok. I see that a lot. In TikTok, I tend to watch a lot more without. What's harder? It's harder not to be noticed but a lot of times I'll come into a live stream, and if it's going pretty quick, they'll miss where I came in, because it'll notify, oh, so-and-so joined the live.
Yeah.
And as long as I don't make a comment, I can pretty much go unperceived. YouTube, you could be the anonymous the entire time. You come in and you're watching, and nobody will ever know that you were there. Instagram is kind of the same thing. That's what Instagram's a little bit worse though, because they'll send an emoji waving that you've joined the live, and so it's one of those things that's interesting. Hey Jeff, thank you. Really appreciate the super chat. It says, "Don't worry, Jacob. I'm the troll that you won't give up on you."
Well, it's funny too, is I come to maybe a lot of times I'll come find out it's people that I know too that are screwing with me. So like there is some legitimate. You got the legitimate, and then you go watch. I'm gonna go get Jacob riled up. But I've learned to deal with that a lot better. I do the same. I play right into it, but sometimes like it's definitely gotten way better, but in the beginning, man, it was just on TikTok, it was just like, this is wild, man. Then I would pretend to just play like dumb with them and stuff. I was always you got too many fish in there. How big is that tank? And I just would say, oh, that's a 5-gallon tank. I would just make it even worse for them, saying, oh, that's 5 gallon. That can handle 100 guppies, no problem. I mean, like, and they did you out of your mind, and it just going.
Yeah, I know that's a fact because the very first live stream that I jumped on that you were on,
Yeah.
somebody had just asked that, and I thought, oh, this guy, I need to mess around with Jacob because he's right up my alley. Because you were like, you didn't even lose a beat. The response was like automatically, oh no, this is 10 gallons. I can put 100 guppies in there. And so I was laughing my butt off. I was like, okay, I can deal with that. But that's sarcasm. It's definitely right up my alley. And so that's how I discovered you. It's just you know, that is the one upside of being on TikTok is, like you said, you get random people just kind of scrolling through the screen. And you know, I always stop at the ones where I see tanks and fish because that's what I'm looking for. I could care less for people dancing on there. It doesn't, that's not what I'm looking for. But if I see somebody that has a, you know, in the background or they're talking about fish, I'll stop and listen.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's again the other thing that I guess I'm very fortunate that I found this group of people because just like there's this community here of hobbyists, there's tons of them throughout YouTube that we just don't interact with. It's like the universe. There's little microcosm, little universes of hobbyists that they have their own communities. And now the more that I venture out and try to find other channels out there that I might be interested in, I'm discovering that they're totally isolated from what we're doing here. But the one thing about these group of people that I've been surrounded by, we're all kind of like-minded people. So it's kind of become one of those things where if I go out and see somebody and I know if I can relate to them and I kind of, you know, find things that I go, oh, okay, I kind of purposely bring them over and invite them to be a guest because I want to expose you to this community where you're going to find more people that are kind of in the same, you know, same brain paths as we are. You know, for the most part, well, not for the most part, I would say 99% of the people that I've interacted, that I've come across in this small community are very similar in the way of thinking as what I do. And that doesn't mean that we agree 100% on how to do things because that's never going to happen. But as far as how we deal with those differences is the part that I really like because for the most part, everybody's very open and we agree to disagree. And that's fine. You know, we know that, you know, there's people that's the way they do it and that's fine. I totally appreciate that. I see their point of view, but that's not the way I do it. So, but that's okay. It's good to be different. It's good to be different.
Yeah. Well, thank God we are all different. It'd be pretty boring if it wasn't. You know what I mean? Think about it. If we all did it the exact same, we wouldn't have you know what I mean? Not a lot to talk about.
Thank you, Cecil. Yeah. So, you know, that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most is, like I said, it's forced me to go out and try to find other hobbyists. And sometimes you find, like, I've been able to find guys that are just coming in and they're kind of trying to find a community. That's the whole reason of putting out a channel, creating a channel, is you're trying to find a group of people that share your interest. And so now that I've kind of gone out there and looking at different places and stuff, if I find somebody that I for the most part find interesting, there's a good likelihood that there's going to be other people here that are going to enjoy what they're doing. So that's the whole reason for doing these interviews that I do and doing those plugs that I do is I'm trying to grow our community so that we have a good group of people that are willing to support each other. That's the biggest thing, because when you're out there creating content, you want support. You want people, you want to find that group, that group of people that share your same interests. Because that's why we do videos, you know. And not everybody necessarily that's in here, their objective is to be in front of a camera. They just want to be able to find other people that they share the same passion for aquariums. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing here. Most of us, that's the common thread. Now, it just so happens that sometimes we align with certain people because they share other interests that we can align with. And that's cool too. So now you made a new friend that you otherwise you probably would have never have done if it wasn't for having this community and this platform. And that's the one thing that's been the most exciting for me, is being able to find people like you, you know, start creating a friendship, and then kind of go, oh, look, man, if you like what I'm doing, or you agree with me, here's a bunch of other people that are very similar to what you're doing, and with the way they think and stuff like that. And not necessarily the way you think, but the same passion for the hobby. Because at the end of the day, we all really, if you could strip everything away, the one thing we're all going to have in common is that we like aquariums. And at the very core, at least that's the foundation to be able to make new friends. So, yeah. And that's been the most rewarding thing for me. When I started doing content, like I said, it was kind of like, I want to help out other people. I want to share my experience. What I never thought I would be doing is this. This has been, I discovered this in the journey of me creating videos. And I found that this is the stuff that I really enjoy. Is really having a conversation with somebody, getting to know somebody else that's in the hobby. And not everybody else is necessarily shares the same ideas when it comes to the aquariums, but we might have other interests that we might be sympathetic to, or simpatical to, you know, like, and you know, outside of just the fish hobby. And I've gotten to know a lot of people like that. Again, also what's really interesting about this is I know that in this hobby there's conventions that happen, and it's always nice to be able to go to a convention and finally meet in person some of the people that you've been interacting with and been going back and forth, and be able to finally meet that person. And when you do, a lot of times it's like you've known them for a long time. So just, you know, it's just, there isn't that awkward stage of trying to make a new friend. It's kind of like, oh, this is my old friend from so-and-so. Yeah. And so that again has been one of those things that has been very pleasant to me. Also, just meeting people that, there's a lot of people that might be watching this that have not met me or haven't really crossed words with me. But if I run into them, I've already had it happen where I go to a different fish club and they go, oh yeah, you know, I've been watching your videos about this and this and that. And that is an immediate icebreaker. You know, there's none of this like, hey, what's up with, you know, what's your name?
Awkwardness or anything.
That awkward initial conversation is out the window because somebody recognizes you from what you're doing. And that has been the stuff that has been like really, really cool, is being able to make first acquaintances, and then in the long run, you know, friendships, you know, and you know, that's the part that I've gotten the most joy out of this. And you know, for the most part, most people, you know, that I've been able to meet have stayed connected. We've been able to find a rapport with each other that we kind of support each other. We go to each other's live streams to the point now where you feel comfortable enough with somebody that you'll joke around with them, talk a little trash, and
give them a hard time.
Yeah, give them a hard time that you normally wouldn't do. And so yeah, that's kind of been the big journey for me. And I don't see me leaving that journey for a very long time. It's stuff that I enjoy more and more every day. And the more I do these, like what Jeffrey was saying, that he can't believe it's 84. That's 84 people that I've been able to interact with. And that's just on here, because prior to doing this, I was doing another live stream with a friend of mine, and there's another number of people that I got to meet doing that. And you know, it's just been fun. Now is a matter of me being able to coincide with a lot of these people and being at events. It's on my bucket list. There's a big event that happens on the East Coast called the Keystone Clash. And I don't know why this hobby, a lot of the hobbyists are found more of the Mississippi East.
That's true.
At least the people that are involved actively in the community, whether they're doing channels or just chatting in the chats. for some reason, all these suckers are on the east side of the Mississippi, and a lot of the big events happen over there, and they get. I always get a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie that they get to interact. They
I'm the
come
same
together.
way.
They get to meet each other. They get to hang out, and I'm sitting over here pouting, going, "Shit! You know,
Yeah.
I wish I. Why do I have to live so far on the other side of the country that it becomes almost mission impossible to get there, or it gets real expensive? That's the reality. When it's all said and done, you're a few $1,000s out just to be able to go.
Yeah.
And but now that I'm starting to see more and more stuff happening on our coast, which is Aquashella being one of them, I'm kind of looking forward to it. Not so much because of the event, because from what I've seen outside looking in, that event has been down spiraling for the last few years. It's not what it initially was. Initially, it was more of a community coming together and having a lot of smaller content creators being able to interact with each other. That is no longer the case. I keep hearing rumors that that's what the direction they're trying to go back to. And that'll be great if it does, because then it'll go back to what it was. But as it is, that's not necessarily it. I'm more excited about people like you that I've met here, that I know is also over here in the California area, the West Coast area, that I'm hoping I get to meet. I meet you and everybody else personally at an event like that. And yeah, it's true with Keith is saying that there's stuff out here, but it seemed for a while there, the biggest stuff that was happening was more in the saltwater side. A lot of like the Reefapalooza and all these other events, which are great, but I'm not a salt head. So for me, they weren't necessarily something that I wanted to go to. Now with the LA Pet Show that they do, the Aquarium Super Show that happens in Pomona. As a matter of fact, I think it's happening next weekend, if I'm not mistaken. There's that big event that is growing there. This is the first year where Aquashella is coming up to the same venue. And so, yeah, there's some stuff. I think the biggest things that were happening were put on by clubs. There's a big meeting in the Sacramento area, but you know, California's a big state too, and it takes a lot of hours to get up north. And then I guess in the Pacific Northwest, there was a couple of other events that they were having. And that's the other thing too that's so interesting, that most of the hobbyists that are on the West Coast are all in the Pacific Northwest. We're kind of out here on our own. I mean, although Coast is doing a good job of trying to make more and more stuff. I'm glad to see there's people like you, people like Nolan from Nolan's Aquarium that are putting it out on their social medias. Dave's Aquariums, not Dave's Aquariums. What's Dave's channel number? He's up in your area too, in the Orange County area. And the more that you guys post about that, it starts bringing us that are closer. It's more realistic to be able to go to an event up in the LA area or even northern part of California area than it is to get out to the East Coast, and to be able to come together and finally get to interact with other hobbyists, I think is great. Dave's Aquarium Stocks, yeah, that's the Dave. You know, so, and I know there's a lot more other content creators, but they're still kind of smaller, so the algorithm doesn't really push their channel. And that's what I kind of like to do with the plug, is trying to go find these smaller channels that are up and coming, and hopefully by me kind of presenting them to the rest of the community, they go watch what they're doing, they subscribe if they like what they're doing, and they get a little bit more exposure, and it allows more people to know where they're at. And but that's really it. At the end of the day, that's what my new goal has been, is to be able to find other hobbyists that are out there, and hopefully create a nice little community where we can also start finding people that are closer to us, because that's always the more exciting part, is when you find somebody that's close to you and going, oh shit, I can drive to LA and go meet up Jacob, and if I go meet up Jacob, I can probably go to Nolan's, and if I go to Nolan's, then I can go to so and so's house, and you know, so forth. And so that's kind of what I guess my goal in creating content is kind of becoming.
Yeah. No, there's quite. I mean, I've been a member of Coast for about a year. And I don't know, I've gone to, I miss them because of work, but a lot of times I got to squeak in there. I've met a few people over there, but I need to get more chatting over there because I know there's a lot of really, there's a lot of fish rooms and coast fish rooms. I just haven't been able to meet them yet. And then you get up in like LA area. It's another whole, I need to go to San Diego. I'm kind of in the middle. So I'm an hour away, hour and a half from LA, and I'm an hour and a half from San Diego. But I know San Diego has a bunch of stuff going on, but I need to get some more time and start networking a little bit more with people because there's a lot of serious rooms. I know there's some serious rooms around this area, but to go meet up with them.
Yeah. And then you get people that you get to meet, like well, I haven't met them yet, but I've been able to exchange words with them. Is no fucks, no frills, no mercy. He's in Scotland, so you get to meet people from other parts of the world by being able to do this. You know, he just came in here. I know Mark Sturleson is one that comes in here. Name. Yeah, Craig, Catfish. Is it Craig's Caves and Catfish or something like that? He's in Australia. Yeah. You know, you get to all of a sudden you're connecting with other hobbyists outside of just the United States, and that's always cool too because now you start building a rapport with these people, and you get to pry into what the hobby's like in their neck of the woods. Yeah. And sometimes it's, you know, for the most part, I'd say there's a lot of commonalities, but once in a while you come across stuff that is like, oh shit, you guys really do that over there? I would have never thought of doing that. Yeah. So, you know, that's also the side of this that's really, really neat and interesting. And that, again, that's going back to finding other communities. There's all these other communities in other parts of the world that we get to connect because of social media. And that's the part that I was not expecting when I started doing this. I figured I'd connect with some of the people here, but being able to go global, that's always been fun.
You know, did you happen to watch the latest is it the Cichlid brothers? I think it's the Cichlid called. I believe that his name is John. He's like they call him the king of cichlids. He's in the coast meeting that he just did if you have a chance, check out that dude's room, man. That he has an unbelievable setup over there. And I see him over there. I got to get the courage enough to say hello to him, but he's been doing it forever. He seems like a good guy. But that was.
I'm going to tell you this for the most part, and I know fish clubs can be hit or miss because from what I hear, I don't get to participate a lot in the fish clubs because it takes me any club that I want to go to, I'm going to be driving over an hour to get to. It takes me 3.5 hours to drive to Phoenix. It takes me 3.5 hours to drive to San Diego. And it takes me, depending on where I'm going, 4 to 5 hours if I go to LA, depending on what part of LA I'm going to. So as much as I love to be able to participate in those communities, I don't get to. But what I do hear is that sometimes fish clubs are a little bit cliquey. So I was going to say, you know, if you recognize somebody and you just go up to them and say, hey, you know, I know who you are. A lot of times that's like a real easy icebreaker, but I was kind of, before I said that, I had to think about it because I've heard complaints where a lot of the old heads at those fish clubs don't necessarily want to interact with everybody. But I think that's slowly, gradually kind of going away. And a lot of it is because of this. A lot of this is because more often than not, if you go to a fish club, you might recognize somebody that you've either seen on a YouTube channel or a TikTok or an Instagram. And that automatically makes it a little bit more easier to kind of say, hey, you know, I watch your stuff. And then that kind of starts the conversation. And for the most part, most people are pretty decent. You're going to have, it's like everything else. It's like society. You're going to have your egotistical people that believe their shit don't stink. But that's just, you know, you're going to come across those in everyday life. It's just we're humans at the end of the day. But it seems like for the most part, that's not the case when it comes to the hobby. And very few times have I ever experienced the negative side of it. For the most part, everybody's been very open and welcoming, whether they know me or not. At a club, I've had people just give me fish because I told them it was my first day at the club.
Oh, that's cool.
That's been a very nice experience too. So
yeah, my experience. I've only been to the Coast Club, and to be fair, like I said, a lot of time I'm under stress, under time. But I mean, I talked, but it comes down to me. It comes down to me going over there. I got to come over there and say hi. How you? I got to push that more. But a lot of times I'm sneaking in there right when the auctions, because there's usually the auctions running for a good 2 hours. So there's not too much talking going on. So you got to catch, there's a small little window, and then you got a speaker. So there's that small little 15, 20-minute period. If you don't catch that, or at the end, and I'm usually got something in my plants or something like that. But no, it's definitely good, and they're definitely. I know they've talked about social media, and I know they're trying to push on doing. They have the YouTube Coast YouTube, and so they did talk about they need to do more of a presence for younger. I would say mostly not a lot of youngsters, and there are a few, but it's most they're mid-age, older people, with people with their few kids and stuff.
Yeah. The one thing that I find interesting that doesn't happen more often in clubs, because I know traditionally clubs have been about bringing in guests, and I get that because it allows for more on one-on-one with the guest speaker that's there. But I know that costs money to clubs. It costs a lot of money to bring somebody in, to fly them in, host them at a hotel, take them out to dinner. All this is money that is going to be spent on somebody. But with the advent of technology, I am surprised that we don't have more digital guests where I could be sitting in the company. And that's the problem also sometimes with trying to find guests that have time to take out of their busy schedule to fly across the country and come and speak at a club. I'd go to a club meeting if I know I'm going to be able to have a conversation with somebody that is an expert in African cichlids, and and I want to hear what they're saying, and because I want to try to breed them or whatever. And it probably more beneficial to the guest also because they're not having to leave the comfort of their home. And they're not losing that time where they'd probably be more willing to do a speaking engagement. Now, the downside, I guess, is that a lot of guest speakers have made it a source of revenue. And if you do it in a digital format, then, all of this stuff is out there forever. Whether you put it behind, back doors or whatever, somebody could always find it and put it out there. And all of a sudden, what this person was able to make some money on is not going to be able to do it. And I think I just answered my own question why they don't do it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of other people that aren't necessarily making money out of the speaking engagements, but would be willing to talk to a group of people and share their experience. And so I don't know. I don't think it's that difficult to be able to set something, use a platform like this. Hey, thank you. No fucks, no frills, no mercy for the super chat. And and be able to have a guest speaker up on the screen. You set up a camera in the middle of the room with a microphone, and if somebody's got a question, you can walk up there and just do exactly what we're doing and have that engagement. It's not that difficult. I don't see why they're not doing that a little bit more to be able to have some of these people that it would be a little bit harder to get in, because one of the biggest things that I find is that challenge that especially the clubs, especially the ones that don't have a lot of resources, getting speakers to come in because, they can't afford it. And so I don't know, that maybe that would be something that would be cool to see, especially for new clubs that are forming out there, to give them an opportunity to be able to have guest speakers without having to really be out of pocket.
No, it's a great idea. I mean, one side of it I see, and the other, because the problem is getting people to get out, and so I don't know. I would say eventually, most of that I would say eventually it would have to go. Things are like been going that way because they're not. They brought it up, and I can notice it. Where's the new generation of fish keepers when they show up to these clubs? Not to say that I've been in the club and I even know how clubs work, but I can see at least at the coast where's the new people. You need new people, and that's where your auctions take place. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, why don't they do well, what's his name does that? Doesn't Corey have an online club or the forum or something?
Yeah.
But it eliminates the whole auction side of it, because a lot of people are just going to say, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to stay home and watch it from home.
But that's the whole thing. You just nailed the nail on the head. Way the reason you go to the fish clubs is for the auction.
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean that your guest speaker can't be there in a digital format.
No. That's true. That's not gonna. I guess that's not going to. That's not going to change that. People still want to come there to get the auction stuff.
And I understand the attraction. There's a few people out there that are always going to have a draw just because of their presence on social media. Let's quite frankly, if a lot of clubs, if they're going to have the King of DIY, Joey, come and do a speaking engagement, that really is not necessarily for the hobbyists that are there, but to bring in a new crowd of people, because they do drive. Corey would be another example. Corey goes and does a live speaking engagement at one of these clubs. He's going to draw in a lot of people that weren't aware of the fact that the club existed, but they're hobbyists. They know of them because of social media. So I understand that being an important aspect of fish clubs by bringing in these big content creators, because it's going to drive new people. The only thing I'm curious is how many of those new people that come to that one club meeting actually stick around, and how much is it really benefiting the club? That they came and they shook hands and they took pictures or whatever it is that they do. But yeah, so that doesn't mean that you have to eliminate the in-person guest speakers, but I think it opens up the door to be able to bring, like, the one thing that's always hard is to get the real experts, the people that are going out in the field doing all this, studies and stuff like that, because they run such a busy schedule. But and having access, so they're kind of limited to the big conventions. There's usually that's the only place you'll see them speak. But if a fish club that would want to be able to have this person come in, and they can't afford to bring them in, maybe setting them up with a interaction very similar to this. I don't see this being very difficult.
That would be
having, because it would be easier for them to find a couple of hours in the day versus a couple of days in their schedule. That's but I don't know.
True. That's true, especially for an up and coming. Because I wish I need to go to a couple more clubs, but I would say that, in my opinion, I look at Coast. It seems healthy. Usually when it's usually standing room only over there. If you're not there early, and if there's any type of there's the last 3 events I've been there, it's standing room only. I look at that thing, I go, this thing needs to be bigger. There's no place to sit. But so I think that, I don't know what the original numbers of it, but it does seem healthy far as people in the seats. I just don't see a ton of young. I don't see a ton of 20-year-olds. I don't see, and I get it. They're doing other things. 20-year-olds are all raising hell. They're out on the weekends, but I don't know.
Well, I think
love
that's
it, though.
just normal, because I guarantee you, in my 20s, I probably wouldn't have been part of a fish club. I just had other interests. Why did I never go back to keeping fish after I graduated from high school? It's because my interests changed.
No, that's true.
And it wasn't until I got to a stage in my life where, okay, now I have this extra time. I have my kids are out of the house. Um, I guess now I can go back to doing what I used to love doing before. And, and
That
it's
makes sense. That makes sense right there. What you just
and I
said.
think and I think a lot of the people in fish clubs are kind of in a similar boat where that's why you tend to see older people.
Yeah.
Now I look now I'm at an age where I look at what I used to see people at clubs before is the older guys. I am the
Yeah.
older guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we're definitely not. None of us are getting younger, huh? I'm starting to feel. I'm about to hit 50, and I'm starting to feel it big time already. And I'm only 50. So
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's just like I said, it's it's been really interesting having the opportunity to do this. And
oh,
then
no,
the upside of it is that apparently people like it too because they continue to come back and that kind of motivates me to think, okay, I'm doing something that people are enjoying and they're willing to give me 2 hours and 15 minutes of their time to sit here and listen to us go back and forth.
yeah,
So I don't take that for granted. I know I always tell people that without them, this wouldn't exist because then it would just be me and you just talking to each other, and nobody else would know about it. So I don't go without acknowledging the fact that people support me and support you by being here.
yeah. No, it's you're doing. I love what you're doing. It's awesome. I love this. I love listening to other, like, you get to see, like you're just saying. We're all in this. We get to see how we're all doing it, and then that's it. And the beginning, to be fair, when I was trying to, like, what's tough is when you're trying to problem shoot issues too. It's hard to find people to get some, like, like good answers from, like when you're really dealing with like certain diseases and stuff like that, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? But with this opens up the door where you there's a difference between watching somebody's video and you see a live interaction, say, okay, I know what that dude's all about. He seems like he's an approachable guy, and then because a lot of people don't want to bug people, and you could say, he seems like he'll answer me, or maybe he won't.
Well, and the other thing that's going to happen is you'll eventually start recognizing some of the names in the chat. Before you know it, you start building a rapport with that individual, and then the next thing you know, you have their contact information, and you already know based on the conversations that you had. Oh, this is somebody that I can reach out. And there's people here that won't let me lie that I've reached out to them because I know they know how to deal with that situation. Whether it's YouTube, whether it's fish related or anything in general, or I've reached out to people for stuff that's got nothing to do with the fish hobby, just because I know they have a background in mechanics. Because I learned that because of these conversations. I can reach out to them. Hey, dude, my car is doing this weird thing. What do you think it is? It's always weird. How you can you would think that you would only reach out to certain people because of the fish, but you get to know them on a different level. Sometimes you just talk to people because you just want to talk to them, and it's been, again, a wonderful experience. And it's allowed me to really be engaged, not only in the hobby, but with other people that are like-minded. And, sometimes you make friendships where all you do is talk trash to each other. That's all you do.
Yeah.
You just rip on each other the whole time.
Yeah. Give each other a hard time.
But you don't learn that unless you interact and you get to meet them, whether it's through something like this where you get to see them on screen and go, oh, okay, I get him. Yeah, he thinks a lot like I do. So that's where you start getting a little bit more adventures, and you start, talking smack. And that's that. For some people, they don't care for that, and that's fine. I understand that. And then some people, that's what they live for. It's just to be able to, the banter of going back and forth and ripping on each other. And I know for a fact there's people within the community that they form tight-knit relationships with each other, and they all of a sudden are hanging out with each other because they got to meet each other on doing this. So I don't know. Like I said,
you don't answer the phone hello, you answer the phone, what's up, asshole?
or something even more colorful than that.
I'm keeping
But again, it's something. It is something that happens just because you got to know who they are. And
yeah.
so yeah, and at first, I find myself doing the other thing that I've discovered is that people really like a lot of the live streams because they get to engage with other people in the chat. And sometimes it's got nothing to do with what's going on between you and me.
The chat's in another
They're having
place.
these side conversations because that's the time to catch up with each other. And I do it too.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of doing that. And so like when I was doing the plug initially, I thought I'll just do what everybody has done and make it a video. But then I know how much I enjoy the banter that goes in the chat that I said, you know what, I'm going to try it out, see how this works out live. And I guess there's one feedback that I wasn't expecting to get is that they really enjoy the fact that they can interact with each other in the chat while they're getting to find out about other channels that are out there. And again, I'm at work. I work a lot of weird hours. I get to lurk on a lot of these live streams. And sometimes it's in between what I'm doing, I get to interact and joke around and catch up. And that's how you find out how people are doing, what's going on. A lot of it is because of the chat. If you just do videos, you don't get a lot of that interaction and you miss out on some of that. But you gotta, if you want to be a content creator and that's what you're trying to go, well, you got to be able to do all the things that it offers. You got to be able to do shorts. You got to be able to do live streams. You got to do videos, because all of those feed into these different categories that YouTube has established to push your channel and make it so that you get that interaction and YouTube thinks, oh, people want to watch this. And that's how your channel grows. But
I have a whole new respect for people that do it, because it ain't easy. It ain't easy when that's another whole thing when you start to watch it and then you start to do them and you're like, man, there's a lot of time and then a lot of effort in this stuff. And it's not only that, you got to get over the whole, when you're doing this stuff, I'm putting my house up for the whole world. You know what I mean? You got to be comfortable with it. And it's like, you got to make, it's just, I don't know. It's just a lot of things that people you don't really think about until you like get in front of, like even doing these, I'm not used to seeing my face. Sometimes my face on, but I'm not used to doing that where you're just like getting like, you got to get comfortable with seeing yourself online and hearing yourself online and say, man, I sound like a fool there and all this stuff. And then, but the good news is getting a little bit older. I just don't give a shit. No, I don't give a shit. Before I used to let things like, oh, I want them to like me. I want all this stuff. I want people. I don't give a shit no more. If you either like me or you don't like me, I try not to be a complete asshole, but sometimes I come across, the wrong way, but that's me. So I don't know. That's how I'm leaving this thing, man. So that's, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun and I've had a great time. And I it's kind of strange. I'm even like 10 years ago, I would have never even expected me putting a video or doing any of this kind of stuff. I wasn't really that person. I'm not even that. I'm not, to be fair, if I were to walk into a place that I don't know anybody, I'm kind of a shy guy, off to the side, sit in the background, listen. I'm not outgoing. How you doing? My name's Jacob. Just like, I'm more of a shy guy. So I don't know. Jeff's going to crucify me, calling me shy guy. No.
Yeah.
No, but it's cool. It's fun. This is what it's all about, is having fun. And hopefully it continues to be fun. If not,
and that's the whole thing. Is if you're not going to enjoy doing this, then don't do it. The little that I've learned is that if you enjoy what you're doing, people are more than likely going to enjoy what you're doing. That's just because they can see that you're enjoying
genuine, being genuine.
So, I've had people approach me. It's like, what should I do? Or how do you go about doing this? and I always tell them, just the easiest thing to do is just be you.
Yeah.
Just be you. Don't try to develop this persona or character, because that's going to be hard. It's going to be tiring to keep up. I'm not saying you can't do it, but then you get stuck in that. If you're, unless you're always 100% this boisterous, loud person,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to be hard to maintain that. The energy it takes to do something that is not you is tiring. So I always tell people, just be you. And you know, a lot of people say, I'm thinking about doing content. Look, it's real easy. Nobody. Well, I'm not going to say nobody. I'm going to say most people. You have to go through this awkward stage, like what you were talking about, getting used to being in front of the camera. When you're doing a video, you're not talking to anybody but yourself. You're hoping people eventually watch what you're doing, but it feels so weird to be sitting in front of a camera and pretend like you're talking to somebody. That's the hardest thing to do. So my suggestion has always been, you have aquariums, record your aquariums, start doing shorts. It's real easy to do a 30-second video of your aquarium, and now you can put music behind it, so you don't even have to talk. And once you start getting comfortable with that, if you want to talk about what you're doing, but you're still not comfortable in front of the camera, well, record it, because the camera will allow you to record. And the phone, especially phones nowadays, are so good, they'll pick up your voice, so you can talk without being in front of the camera. And once you start becoming comfortable with that, if you feel you're ready to take the next step, then get in front of the camera. Or better yet, never do it, and you create that intrigue as to who that person is. Some of the most successful channels, you never know who is behind the camera, because there's that interest, is like that curiosity. It's kind of like, oh, I wonder who that is. And it could also be engaging, so lean into it. Why not? You know. And so there's just, the beauty of this is there's so many ways to do it. It's like fish keeping. There's so many ways to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. I know there's going to be people that are going to tell you, do it this way, do it that way, and all this and this and that. It's no different than the hobby. You're going to have people that they're going to tell you, no, you have to do it this way, but you'll figure it out soon enough. There is no formula. It's, you know, just do what you feel is right for you, and go with it, run with it. And you know, if you're enjoying it and you're consistent with it, eventually it might become something. You never know.
And I think it's truly a mistake. This is just from experience. I think it's a mistake to spend money. I mean, again, I think it's a mistake to spend money to boost your stuff. I don't think it's good. I don't think it doesn't. I don't know how. Maybe I, like, again, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I just think it's a mistake, because I think I talked to you about this other. How do you know like, you have to make something interesting enough for somebody to watch it organically. So it's going to, how do you know what you're making is correct if you're boosting behind it? So,
well, I think, again, it's another tool. And but the thing is, do your research, understand what it is you're buying into. Don't go in there blindly thinking that's going to make you an instant success overnight. There's a lot of things that go into making something successful. It's not just the one thing, not just throwing money at it. You could throw all the money you want on it, but if you're not personable, then it's probably big off. You know, if it's just, there's so many factors that go into it, that will, I guess, dictate the amount of success. And be realist. If you have a very clear goal of what you're trying to accomplish, then that helps, because
that's my problem. I have no goal.
Yeah, you know your path, you know the direction. If you have a clear idea of what you want to do, you're more than likely to try to find out more information of how to do it that way, versus of trying to do the shotgun effect, where, oh, so and so said do this, so and so said do this, and that's going to get you. And then you're trying all these things, and you're getting frustrated because it's not working for you. You know, that's why, just be realistic of what you're trying to accomplish. Very few channels nowadays will gain success overnight. It's just, you just gotta find the ones that do. It was a combination of right timing, right thing going on, and it just happened to strike fire. But for most of us, it's going to be a long process. You just got to work at it, be diligent. The more and more you do it, the better you're going to get. The more and more you're willing to learn, the better you're going to get. Because that's the other thing. You can't repeat to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and you're wondering why you're not succeeding, but you just continue to do the same thing over and over. Obviously, that's not working. Do something a little bit different. But still within your own comfort and who you are. And it'll eventually you'll find the thing that you enjoy doing. Look, sorry to do this, Tommy, but I'm going to use the Aquatic News Network. Tommy is a friend of mine, and I can really say that he's a friend of mine. He's been trying different things, trying to get this to grow, trying to have some success on YouTube, trying to connect with people. He's been experimenting. He's done a bunch of different iterations of what he's doing, but now it seems like he really found the one thing that he's really passionate about. And I can tell, because when you find something that you truly enjoy, it oozes, it just comes out of you naturally, because you are 100% invested on what you're doing. He's created this thing where he does it's like a news channel with some humor in it and some information. He's still working on his balance as to where that exactly right amount is, but you can tell that he's on the right path, because you can tell that he's having fun doing it. And it's one of those things, if people see that you're having fun, that just kind of, shit, I lost my words.
Contagious.
Yeah, it's contagious. And people want to watch it. And I've seen him start growing. He's found that niche, that one thing that you can tell he really enjoys doing it. He's having fun doing it. He's educating people at the same time. And it's awesome to see him. And I know it's going to be a while. Things don't happen overnight. Maybe he does something that goes viral, and all of a sudden that makes it jump. But he's continuing to stay on that path, and I think he's going to do well. I mean, just because you can genuinely see that he's having a good time doing that, and that would be my advice to anybody that's trying to start something like this: is do what the one thing that excites you, because if you enjoy it, that's gonna send you in the direction to try to figure out how to do more of that and be able to have success. So.
I hope more people do it, because I know we all enjoy. I love looking at other people's setup. That's like I scour that for that. So I know it can be intimidating. I get it, all that, but just at least put your aquarium out so we can just see. I love that. I love watching somebody's fish setups is one of my favorite things to do.
Because even as experienced hobbyists, you can kind of look at somebody's set up and kind of go, oh, he's doing this, and get ideas from that. And it's just, I know we all think our tanks are the worst ones out there. We're always self-conscious about that. But where you see ugliness, other people will find beauty in it. I mean, I had tanks that I'm going to be honest with you, I just kind of gave up on them and let them go. It's funny how some people will tell me, oh, I really like what you did there. Yeah, what? Just kind of let it do its own thing. But, it's amazing. Where you don't necessarily understand what you're doing with it, somebody else might look at it and go, oh, that's the coolest thing I've seen. And in a way, you thought it was cool, but you just didn't dare say it out loud, because you know that it's cool, but I ain't doing shit to it. I'm just letting it run wild. But at the end of the day, somebody else goes, oh, I really like that because of what you did there. It's like, yeah, neglected it. I neglected it and let it do its own thing.
I was just thinking the other day, because on some of these times I do live, I got some smorgasbord shit going on in my I'll be having cutting a man filter, and I got extra sponge. I go, I'm gonna cut this up into little pieces and put it down as substrate. guy in TikTok says, "What is all that floating sponge on the bottom?" I go, "Fuck, I don't know." And I stopped and I looked at it, I go, "Boy, does that look like shit." There must be. He's going, "What is going on here?" It just looks like a rat chewed on sponge. It's funny when you step back and you look sometimes at things what's normal to me that I don't even think about, and then people point it out. And I remember going, "What the hell is going on here?" Like, you're right. No, it's fun. It's all every bit of it's fun. And it depends on my mood. Sometimes if somebody says like I edited work, I'd be like, "Hey, this dude's an asshole." Oh, I gotta stand up, man. My back.
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna wrap it up because it's getting hot in here.
Yeah.
To take it away from Nelly. No, it's 100. No, it's 99. It's not 100 yet.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
man, you're
baking
cooking.
into the garage.
99. Oh my god.
And the reason is because I opened up the garage door and the sun's on that side. And I did it because I was smoking the cigar. I didn't want the smoke to get caught up in here. But no, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I want to thank you so much, Jacob, for accepting the invitation. Again, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, well, thank you." No, you know what? Without you guys, I wouldn't have a channel. That's the reality of it. Or I would, but it wouldn't be as fun as it is. And a big part of it is you guys accepting the invitations to come on here. And I know Stan, the Redneck Aquatics, was put out there that if you want to see I don't think it's going to be a train wreck, Stan. I think we're going to have fun. But I got him on Friday.
Oh, nice.
And, so it'll be in the evening. I apologize for not having a consistent schedule. I just can't. I got to work around my work schedule and the other thing called life. But again, I've been very fortunate that people will watch this as a replay, and that was the original intention, because I knew in order to have a successful, consistent channel, you have to have consistency yourself. The bigger channels on a certain day at a certain time, it's like a program show. They're always on. I don't have that luxury. So I had to find the second best thing to do, which has been, I'll do it when I can. And you guys have been extremely supportive of that. I know that it could get on the nerve of some people because they want to be here for the live stream, but nonetheless, you guys still continue to watch this, and I appreciate that. Now, of all that negative side, one of the biggest upsides is it's opened up who I can have on as a guest, because they can be on the other side of the world, and where it might be, 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, or 11 o'clock at night. For them, it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's the only time they can do it. And so, I appreciate you guys understanding and continually. You guys are very consistent with the support, and I appreciate that. And so before we get out of here, Jacob, obviously we talked about TikTok being a place where they can find you. What are some of the other social medias that you're regularly on, and you can, if people want to reach out to you, they can get a hold of you?
It's definitely, I'm on all of them, but I'm heavily, like, the most is TikTok and YouTube is where those are my two places. But I do have accounts on Facebook and Instagram, even X I'm on. But I mean, X is a tough one. That's more of a news channel than fish. But no, YouTube or TikTok, either one. Feel free to shoot me a message if you have any questions and stuff. And I appreciate the community's been awesome. George, you've been awesome. I appreciate, you're one of the first guys that reached out to me, and I really appreciate that because you helped me out a lot. And the community, the same thing here. I know I'm small time and stuff, but you guys, it doesn't matter. I'm doing it for fun. I appreciate any of the support, all the support I've already gotten, and it's just having fun playing around with fish. So that's all I got. I do appreciate it, George.
No problem. Thank you. And so I'll say hello, everyone. Looks like I missed 99% of the stream. Okay. See, Audra is one of those consistent replay crews. She'll watch them, and she always leaves me a comment. Jose is another one. I mean, just about whoever doesn't really catch my live for Whip. Whip is another guy that's always, if he can't watch the live stream, he's definitely watching the replays. Ben, Lake Missoula, everybody. I have been very, very fortunate that, like I said, the support is constant, and it just keeps growing. It keeps growing and growing every time, more and more. And I don't know. There's just I feel like saying thank you is not enough. But I really do appreciate it. With that being said, guys, thank you so much again, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And don't forget, Friday, I got Stan the Man, and we'll be having a conversation. So see you guys later. You
All
guys
right,
enjoy
take
the
care.
rest of your evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on where you're at.
Take care, everybody.